Most men don't realize they are being disrespected until it is far too late in the relationship. This realization often hits like a sudden storm after months or even years of subtle erosion because disrespect in relationships rarely arrives as an open, blatant attack that you can easily identify and confront right away. Instead, it creeps in quietly, almost imperceptibly, wrapped in small changes in her tone of voice. Those frustratingly delayed replies to your messages, subtle forms of dismissiveness that make you question if you're overthinking things, and that gradual sinking feeling that your words and opinions carry less weight than they used to just a short while ago. She still talks to you on a regular basis, still laughs at your jokes sometimes, though perhaps not as heartily as before, and she still keeps you around in her life, maintaining the facade of normally. But deep down, something has undeniably shifted in the dynamic between you two. She starts questioning your decisions more frequently, valuing your time and efforts less and less, and treating your attention and affection like something she automatically owns, as if it's her right without any reciprocation needed. And here's the truly dangerous part of this whole situation that so many men overlook until it's embedded too deeply. The more you try to be understanding, patient, and emotionally available in an attempt to fix things or smooth over the rough patches, the worse the disrespect actually becomes over time. Not because she is inherently cruel or malicious in her intentions, far from it in many cases, but because human psychology rooted in evolutionary instincts and social dynamics reacts to perceived emotional dependence by lowering the perceived value of the person showing that dependence. It's a subconscious mechanism that plays out in relationships all the time. The very moment a woman feels that you are more afraid of losing her than she is of losing you, the balance of power and respect in the relationship changes dramatically and often irreversibly if not addressed. Your kindness, which you offer with the best intentions, starts looking like weakness in her eyes. Your consistent effort to make things work begins to appear as an obligation rather than a choice. Your constant presence in her life starts feeling guaranteed, like something she can take for granted without any fear of consequences. This is precisely where most men unwittingly fall into the trap that destroys attraction completely, eroding the foundation of the relationship bit by bit. They mistakenly believe that respect is earned by giving more of themselves, explaining their feelings in greater detail, and proving their worth through endless demonstrations of care and commitment. They attempt to correct her behavior through deep emotional talks that drag on for hours, long-winded messages filled with vulnerability, or extra doses of affection in hopes of winning her back. But the harsh reality is that respect does not grow from emotional pursuit or desperate attempts to cling tighter. Instead, it flourishes from a place of emotional strength, self-possession, and the quiet, unwavering understanding that your life does not revolve around her reactions or moods. When that solid foundation disappears from your side of the equation, she does not feel safer or more secure in the relationship. Quite the opposite. She feels higher than you in the emotional dynamic as if she's holding all the cards. And once that power imbalance takes hold, attraction fades away slowly but surely. The tension that once sparked passion dies out, and she stops seeing you as the strong, admirable man she once looked up to with genuine respect. She begins to treat you casually, almost flippantly, not because she planned to disrespect you from the start, but because your behavior has slowly, unconsciously told her that she could get away with it without any real pushback. But here is the profound truth that most men never hear or fully internalize until they've lost too much. Disrespect is not the definitive end of attraction in a relationship. It is in fact a signal, a clear, albeit subtle indicator that the dynamic has shifted out of balance and that you have unconsciously placed her on a pedestal while stepping off your own, diminishing your own stature in the process. The good news, however, is that these relational dynamics can flip just as quietly and subtly as they fell apart in the first place without needing dramatic confrontations or ultimatums. And when a man truly understands how to regain his emotional posture, how to stop overgiving his attention and energy, and how to redirect his focus back to his own mission, standards, and personal growth, something truly powerful and transformative happens in the relationship. The woman who once felt comfortable leaning back and taking things for granted suddenly feels the empty space you've created by pulling back slightly. The woman who stopped valuing your presence and contributions starts noticing your absence in a way that makes her reflect. The woman who treated your attention is something guaranteed and effortless, begins to feel that she must now earn it again through her own efforts and investments. In this video, which I've put together with careful thought and real-world insights to help you navigate these challenges, you are going to learn exactly how to stop the vicious cycle of disrespect without resorting to arguments that escalate tensions, without begging for change, which only weakens your position further, and without acting cold or toxic in a way that poisons the connection. You will discover practical step-by-step ways to reset the emotional dynamic in a manner that makes her see you differently with renewed admiration. Respond differently with more enthusiasm and care. And invest differently by putting in more effort on her part. Because the pivotal moment you stop chasing respect desperately is the exact moment respect starts chasing you naturally, drawn by your newfound strength. Before we dive deep into the core content of this video, a quick but important reminder. If you're finding value in this right now, please take a second to like this video. It really helps the algorithm push this content to more men who need it. And subscribe to the channel for more in-depth advice on relationships, self-improvement, and personal growth. Hit that notification bell too so you never miss an upload. Your support means the world and keeps this community growing. The real transformation in your life doesn't happen just from watching videos on YouTube. No matter how insightful they are, it happens inside a dedicated community where ideas are put into practice. If these videos have opened your eyes to new perspectives on relationships and self-respect, what's inside our exclusive community will rebuild your entire mindset completely from the ground up. It's not just a course or a one-time thing, it's a brotherhood, a supportive network of like-minded men, a private space where men come together to master attraction, emotional control, and the intricate psychology of power dynamics in relationships and beyond. You don't join for a month or pay ongoing subscriptions. You join for life with unlimited access. Every future course we release, every book we publish, and every lesson we create is yours forever at no additional cost. No subscriptions, no hidden limits. Just one smart decision that changes your direction and trajectory for the better. If you're truly serious about personal growth, building unbreakable discipline, and living with purpose every single day, then click the link in the description below right now. Join the community today. Enroll once and grow forever. It's an investment in yourself that pays dividends for a lifetime. All right, with that said, let's dive right in and unpack this step by step, starting from the fundamentals and building up to advanced strategies. Section number 1, the hidden ways women test your self-respect. Disrespect in relationships rarely begins as open, overt rudeness that slaps you in the face. It starts as small, almost invisible tests of your emotional posture and resilience, and most men fail them miserably because they don't even recognize them as tests in the first place. They dismiss them as minor quirks or bad days. For instance, she might cancel plans at the last minute without any real consideration for your time, effort, or feelings, brushing it off with a casual excuse. She may tease you in ways that feel slightly diminishing or belittling rather than lighthearted and playful, chipping away at your confidence subtly. She might delay her replies to your texts for hours or even days while you can clearly see she's active on social media or elsewhere, sending a silent message about priorities. She could question your decisions in a tone that feels more like a challenge or criticism than genuine curiosity or support. None of these individual moments alone seem serious enough to warrant a big reaction, which is exactly why they are so powerful and insidious. They fly under the radar. They are not random, isolated behaviors that happen by accident. They are emotional probes, subconscious checks to gauge your reactions. She is subconsciously observing how you respond when your comfort zone is poked, when your ego takes a minor hit, or when your expectations are slightly disrupted in ways that reveal your inner strength or lack thereof. When a woman truly respects a man, she naturally stays aware of how her behavior affects him on a deeper level. She treads carefully because she values the connection. She does not feel the urge to push boundaries constantly because she already senses and appreciates his internal strength and stability. But when that perception of your strength weakens over time, perhaps due to complacency or over-accommodation on your part, her behavior shifts into this testing mode without her even realizing it fully. She wants to see whether your calm demeanor is real and rooted in self-assurance or just situational, dependent on everything going smoothly. Whether your confidence truly stands on its own or if it crumbles without her approval and validation. Whether your kindness stems from a place of genuine strength or from an underlying fear of losing her and rocking the boat. These tests are not always conscious decisions on her part, and they are certainly not always malicious or intended to hurt. They're often instinctive responses driven by human nature's need for security and hierarchy in relationships. She is trying to understand where you stand emotionally, how solid your sense of self really is, and whether you're someone she can rely on without doubt. The core problem is that many men interpret these moments through an emotional lens instead of a positional, strategic one. They let feelings of hurt, confusion, or anxiety take over. Their reactions reveal vulnerability in the wrong way. They over-explain why something bothered them in exhaustive detail. They seek reassurance repeatedly to quell their insecurities. They try harder to please her by bending over backward, and they become even more available in a bid to secure the connection and prevent further drift. And in doing all this, they unknowingly fail the test spectacularly. Because the test was never really about the specific canceled plan, the delayed reply, or the offhand comment. It was always about whether your emotional state remains stable and unshaken when things do not go exactly your way, when minor disruptions occur. A man with strong, unshakable self-respect does not overreact dramatically to these probes, but he also does not ignore recurring patterns that indicate a deeper issue. He stays calm under pressure, but he adjusts his investment levels accordingly to protect his own well-being. If she treats his time casually and without regard, he becomes less available, not as a game, but as a natural consequence. If her tone becomes consistently dismissive, his energy becomes more reserved and selective. Again, not as punishment, but as a form of alignment with his own values. His behavior communicates a clear message without words, without any drama or confrontation. I value myself too much to accept less. And that is precisely what stops disrespect from growing and festering into something bigger and more destructive. Because the moment she feels that her actions directly change how much access she has to you and your energy, she begins recalibrating her own behavior subconsciously. Respect is reinforced not through endless explanations or pleas, but when boundaries are lived out consistently in your actions, day in and day out. Section number 2, the nice guy reaction that destroys attraction over time. When disrespect starts creeping in slowly but surely, most men don't respond with the strength and poise needed to turn things around. Instead, they respond with increased effort and accommodation, pouring more into the relationship in hopes of salvaging it. And this is the exact reaction that not only fails to fix the problem, but actually accelerates it, making the disrespect worse and the attraction fade faster. The moment they feel her energy shifting toward distance or indifference, they lean in harder than ever before. They text more frequently to bridge the gap, compliment her more lavishly to boost her mood, explain their feelings in even greater depth to foster understanding, and try to prove they are caring, understanding, and emotionally available partners worthy of respect. On the surface, this approach looks like maturity. It appears as open communication, as genuine love and commitment. But psychologically, beneath that facade, it signals something completely different and detrimental. It signals a deep-seated fear of losing her and her position in your life, a desperation to maintain the status quo at all costs. The nice guy reaction stems from a misguided belief that attraction is maintained through constant reassurance, emotional presence, and unending support, no matter the cost, to oneself. So, when she becomes distant, he tries to close that gap aggressively. When she becomes colder in her responses, he becomes warmer and more effusive. When she shows less investment in the relationship, he ramps up his own to compensate. And this creates the exact imbalance that kills respect and attraction. Because true, lasting attraction does not grow or thrive when one person is desperately chasing emotional certainty, while the other is comfortably leaning back, taking it all for granted. The more he tries to secure the connection through these efforts, the more she feels emotionally above the situation, as if she's in control. She stops feeling his strength and independence and starts feeling his dependency and neediness instead. Here is the brutal, unfiltered psychological truth that every man needs to hear. When your behavior clearly says, "I need this connection to stay stable for my own emotional well-being," her mind registers it as lower value on a subconscious level, not consciously or cruelly, but instinctively as part of how humans evaluate partners. Humans are naturally drawn to those who are emotionally self-sufficient, who don't rely on others for their happiness, not to those who revolve around external validation and approval. When you over-pursue in this way, she does not feel loved or cherished. She feels pressure, an unwanted burden. She feels responsible for maintaining your emotional state, for keeping you happy. And that sense of responsibility drains attraction faster than any physical distance ever could. Respect simply cannot grow or be sustained in a space where she feels like she holds all the emotional power, where you're always the one yielding. The nice guy mistake isn't kindness itself. Kindness is a form of strength when it comes from a place of choice and abundance. The real mistake is overinvestment driven by anxiety and fear. It's the constant checking in, the long emotional messages that dissect every feeling. The compulsive need to talk about what's wrong every single time the energy shifts, even slightly. That kind of behavior tells her loud and clear that you are reacting emotionally rather than leading yourself with confidence. And the moment she feels she can affect your emotional balance so easily with just a word or a silence, she stops seeing you as emotionally solid and reliable. Disrespect grows unchecked in the space where your boundaries are blurry or non-existent, and your attention is guaranteed no matter what. The irony here is painfully evident. The more you try to save the connection through sheer effort and persistence, the more you confirm to her that you are afraid to lose it, that you're operating from scarcity. And fear, as we all know, is the polar opposite of attraction. It's repellent. Strength, on the other hand, is quiet and unassuming. Strength is steady and unflinching. Strength does not chase emotional reassurance at every turn. And until a man fully understands and embodies that principle, he keeps trying harder and harder while watching respect fade away into nothing. If this section resonates with you, pause for a moment and like this video to show your support. It helps spread this message. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more content like this that dives deep into relationship psychology. Section number 3, the frame shift that makes her reevaluate you completely. the pivotal moment you stop trying to manage or control her perception of you and instead start managing your own emotional posture and mindset is the moment the entire frame of the relationship shifts in your favor. And this shift is the turning point that most men never reach because they get stuck in old patterns. A frame in this context is simply the emotional position or perspective you live from on a daily basis. It's the lens through which you view and approach the relationship. Before this shift, your frame was centered almost entirely on her reactions and behaviors. If she was warm and affectionate, you felt secure and content. If she was distant or aloof, you felt unsettled and anxious. If she pulled back even a little, you leaned forward aggressively to compensate. That frame quietly but effectively communicated that she was the central emotional reference point in your life, the sun around which you orbited. And whenever that dynamic takes hold, respect erodes steadily because your stability appears to be externally dependent on her, not internally generated. The new frame, however, is radically different and empowering. It is the mindset that your emotional state, your daily schedule, your focus, and your overall life direction do not change or waver based on temporary emotional fluctuations from her side, whether good or bad. You are still kind and considerate, still respectful in your interactions, still open to genuine connection and intimacy, but you are no longer adjusting your internal world or priorities to chase emotional certainty or approval from her. You are living from a place of self-direction and autonomy. That means your days remain full and productive regardless of her mood. Your goals still move forward with momentum. Your routines stay intact and non-negotiable. Your attention is given intentionally based on merit, not automatically or out of habit. When she feels this subtle but profound change in your energy, the dynamic between you shifts immediately, even if no words are exchanged about it. This frame shift is powerful because it removes the invisible pressure that was building up before. Earlier, she could feel that her warmth or coldness controlled the emotional temperature of the entire connection. You rose and fell with her. Now she feels that your presence is stable and consistent regardless of her input. You are not distant in a cold, punitive way that pushes her away. You are present without clinging desperately. You respond thoughtfully without chasing validation. You engage meaningfully without overinvesting emotionally every time. That kind of emotional neutrality forces her mind to recalibrate how she sees you. Instead of feeling pursued and smothered, she begins to feel space. And space, as we know, creates curiosity in relationships. Curiosity then creates increased attention on her part. And that attention slowly but surely rebuilds respect from the ground up. Women naturally respect the man who chooses them freely from a place of strength, not the man who needs them desperately to feel complete. And that crucial distinction is communicated not through grand speeches or declarations, but through consistent behavior that she observes over time. When you stop over-explaining every little thing, stop seeking reassurance at every dip, and stop trying to correct every emotional shift verbally, she senses that your confidence is truly internal and self-sustained. You are not trying to win her over through effort. You are allowing her to be part of your already fulfilling life while you remain centered in it. That is the energy that makes her reevaluate you entirely, seeing you in a new light. Because now she sees a man whose world does not shrink or expand dramatically based on her moods or actions. The frame shift is silent but undeniable in its impact. It says without words, "I value you deeply, but I value myself first and foremost." And when she feels that authentic self-value, the emotional balance begins correcting itself naturally without any force or manipulation needed. Section number 4, the behavior that makes her start chasing you. Once the frame has shifted internally within your mindset, your external behavior must align with it seamlessly for the change to take root. And this is where many men get confused or trip up. They think making her chase means playing manipulative games, acting cold and aloof on purpose, or pretending not to care about her at all. That is not true strength. That's just a performance, a mask. And any performance always leaks insecurity, eventually undermining your efforts. The behavior that truly changes everything is calm emotional non-pursuit, combined with high levels of self-investment in your own life. In simple, practical terms, you stop overfeeding the connection with constant energy and start feeding your own life with that same vigor. You are still respectful in all interactions. You still respond when she reaches out. You still engage fully when genuine interaction happens, but you are no longer the emotional initiator every single time, the one always starting conversations or keeping the momentum going. You are not rushing to fill every silence with chatter. You are not sending extra messages just to maintain some artificial momentum. You are not adjusting your schedule constantly to prove your availability or dedication. Instead, your time becomes more structured and protected. Your attention becomes measured and purposeful. Your energy is directed toward your work, your physical health, your personal goals, your hobbies, and your broader social world, friends, family, new experiences. And this shift is not announced with fanfare or explanations. It is simply lived out day by day, becoming your new normal. When a woman senses that your life feels full and vibrant, that your emotional state is steady and content without her constant involvement or validation, something profound happens internally for her. She feels a slight loss of control over the dynamic that she once held. Earlier, she could predict your reactions with ease. You were always there, always responsive. Now, she cannot take that for granted. Earlier, your attention was guaranteed and abundant. Now it is earned through mutual energy and reciprocity. That element of unpredictability combined with your calm and composed demeanor creates fresh attraction because it signals true independence. And independence, as we've established, is incredibly magnetic in relationships. Chasing begins subtly when she feels the emotional distance that you once felt so acutely. She starts initiating conversations more often. She asks more questions about your life and thoughts. She checks your tone and mood more attentively. She invests more effort into the connection, planning things, or showing appreciation. Not because you forced it through demands, but because the emotional supply and demand has rebalanced in a healthy way. Humans by nature value what feels less accessible, but still attainable. It's the principle of scarcity at play. You are not gone or withdrawn completely. You are just not leaning forward anymore, not overextending. That slight pullback creates the emotional tension that attraction absolutely needs to survive and thrive. The key to making this work is unwavering consistency in your approach. If you pull back one day and then chase aggressively the next, the effect dies out quickly and trust erodes. But when your behavior steadily communicates self-respect and a full, engaging life, her subconscious registers your elevated value again. And that is when the pursuit slowly reverses with her taking more initiative. Section number 5, why silence increases your value significantly. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength in relationships and personal dynamics because most people mistakenly associate silence with weakness, avoidance, or an emotional shutdown that signals defeat. But when silence comes from a place of genuine emotional stability instead of fear or resentment, it becomes one of the strongest, most compelling signals of self-respect you can ever communicate without saying a word. Earlier, when you were constantly explaining every feeling, reassuring her of your commitment, and maintaining emotional contact at all costs, your presence felt abundant, predictable, and almost overwhelming. And humans, by their very nature, do not deeply value or cherish what feels unlimited and always available. The novelty wears off. The more accessible something is, the less psychologically impactful it becomes over time. But when your emotional availability becomes more measured and selective, your silence begins to carry real weight and significance. Silence creates space in the relationship, and that space activates the mind in powerful ways. When you are no longer filling every gap with messages, reactions, or emotional processing sessions, she begins to feel the absence of your constant engagement more acutely. That absence is not dramatic or theatrical. It is subtle and understated, but it's those subtle shifts that the subconscious responds to most strongly. She starts wondering what you are focused on in your life. Now she notices that you are not reacting impulsively to every mood change or slight. She feels that your emotional world continues moving forward dynamically without needing her constant participation or input. And that realization rebuilds your perceived value because now she sees you as a man with a rich internal life, not someone orbiting around her exclusively. Another crucial psychological effect of strategic silence is that it removes any lingering emotional pressure from the dynamic. When you are always trying to talk through feelings or fix the relationship verbally, dissecting every issue, she feels pushed into an unwanted role of emotional responsibility. But when you become calm, self-contained, and less reactive, she can finally relax. She does not feel chased or cornered. She does not feel managed or controlled. Instead, she feels free to lean in toward you by her own choice rather than pulling away in defense. This is exactly why silence often increases attraction exponentially. It allows her to move toward you voluntarily, creating a pull rather than a push. Silence also signals a deep confidence in the outcome of the relationship, whatever it may be. When you do not rush to close every distance or resolve every uncertainty immediately, it shows that you are comfortable with ambiguity and trust your own path. That comfort communicates profound emotional strength, and emotional strength is deeply attractive because it suggests you are grounded in yourself, not dependent on constant reassurance from others. She begins to feel your presence differently, not louder or more intense, but more solid, more substantial. And solidity, that unshakable quality, commands respect on an instinctive level. The key to harnessing this is intention behind the silence. Silence used purely to manipulate or create artificial tension will backfire, breeding resentment. But silence that comes from genuine self-focus, from living a full directed life, creates authentic attraction. When your quietness is simply the natural result of prioritizing your own growth and fulfillment, she feels the authenticity radiating from you. And authenticity is what turns silence into a form of quiet power that draws people in. Section number 6, the one thing that will ruin all your progress overnight. The one thing that can destroy all this hard-earned progress faster than anything else, faster than arguments or external interferences, is emotional relapse. This is the moment when you abandon your new posture of strength and fall back into old fear-driven behaviors that undid you before. This relapse usually happens right after you begin seeing positive signs of change in her behavior. She starts texting more frequently and with warmth. Her tone softens, becoming more affectionate. She shows more interest in your life and plans. And suddenly, a wave of relief hits you like a tidal wave. The anxiety that initially pushed you to make these changes begins fading away. And you think mistakenly that the problem is fully solved, that you've won. That is when most men make the fatal mistake that resets everything to square one. They overcorrect back into patterns of overinvestment and eagerness. They respond instantly to every message, no matter the time. They become extra available again, dropping plans for her. They increase emotional expression, pouring out feelings unchecked. And without realizing it, they communicate the same dependency and neediness that caused the initial respect drop in the first place. Respect is not rebuilt by one strong week of improved behavior. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It is rebuilt through consistent emotional stability, demonstrated over time through ups and downs. When she feels your calm presence repeatedly without fail, her trust in your strength grows deeper and more solid. But if your steadiness disappears the moment things feel better or more secure, she subconsciously registers that inconsistency. An inconsistency kills respect dead because it signals that your strength is situational and conditional, not internal and inherent. She starts testing boundaries again out of uncertainty. She pulls back again to protect herself, and the entire cycle restarts, leaving you frustrated. Emotional relapse happens when your behavior is still secretly tied to the outcome, when you're only calm to get a specific reaction from her. If that's the case, you will break the moment you get that reaction, reverting to old ways. True lasting change happens when your calmness comes from genuine self-alignment, not as a temporary strategy or tactic. Your life remains full and engaging, whether she leans in closer or not. Your routine stays structured and productive. Your emotional tone stays measured and balanced. You enjoy her presence and the good times, but you do not build your entire emotional stability around it. That would be a house of cards. That is the discipline most men struggle to maintain long term because it requires real comfort with uncertainty, patience with the slow process of change, and a commitment to self over immediate gratification. You must remember that attraction responds best to emotional consistency, not to bursts of effort followed by lapses. When she sees that your grounded presence is now your natural state, not a temporary act put on for show, respect becomes permanent and unshakable. But the moment she feels the old anxious energy creeping back in through overeagerness or clinginess, the perceived value drops again and you're back to square one. So the real work isn't just making her chase you in the short term. The real work is becoming the man whose energy does not fluctuate wildly based on her behavior or the relationship status. And if you can hold that state through thick and thin, the dynamic doesn't just improve temporarily, it transforms fundamentally for the better. Section number 7. The identity shift that ends disrespect for good once and for all. Everything you have learned so far in this extended video, from recognizing tests to shifting frames and behaviors, works effectively, but it only becomes permanent and second nature when it stops being a mere technique or tool you apply sporadically and instead becomes an integral part of your core identity. Temporary behavior changes create only temporary results that fade when the motivation wanes. But identity level change creates lasting transformation that sticks because it's who you are. Many men can pull back emotionally, stay calm under pressure, and act grounded for a short time, especially when they feel they're on the verge of losing someone important. But once things improve and the immediate threat recedes, they slowly return to old habits and patterns because they never truly changed how they see themselves at a fundamental level. They still see themselves deep down as someone who needs external approval to feel worthy, who fears loss more than anything, and who measures their own value through how much attention or validation they receive from others. And as long as that limiting identity remains intact, disrespect will always return in some form or another, no matter how many times you try to fix it, because behavior always inevitably follows self-perception. It's the root. The real profound shift happens when you stop seeing yourself as a man desperately trying to keep a woman happy or retain her, and start seeing yourself as a man actively building a rich, fulfilling life, where a woman is a wonderful complement to that life, not the center or the sole source of meaning. That mental position changes everything about how you show up. Your time becomes inherently valuable because your life is structured around purpose and productivity. Your attention becomes meaningful and impactful because it is not given out unlimitedly or carelessly. Your emotional stability becomes natural and effortless because your purpose, goals, routines, and self-care hold your focus steady. When this becomes who you are at your core, you no longer have to act calm or try not to chase. You simply do not feel the urge to over-pursue because your fulfillment is not coming from the relationship alone. It's multi-faceted. Women respond powerfully and positively to this identity because it creates both emotional safety and attraction simultaneously. Safety comes from your rock-solid stability that she can lean on, Attraction comes from your independence that keeps things exciting. She feels that you want her in your life, but do not need her to complete you. That perfect balance is what creates deep, lasting respect. You are not emotionally closed off or guarded, but you are emotionally self-contained and whole. You enjoy connection and intimacy, but you do not collapse or unravel when it fluctuates naturally, and that emotional self-sufficiency removes the very foundation that disrespect feeds on. There's no soil for it to grow. When you live from this empowered identity, your standards are not spoken aggressively or demanded loudly. They are simply reflected in your everyday behavior like a mirror. If someone treats you casually or without regard, your investment adjusts naturally downward without drama. If someone respects you and matches your energy, your warmth flows naturally and abundantly. There is no unnecessary drama, no overreactions, no emotional pleading, just pure alignment between your values and actions. And that alignment commands respect effortlessly because it shows you value yourself enough to act accordingly every time. At that point, making her chase you is no longer the primary goal or focus. The goal shifts to living in a way that naturally attracts respect, effort, and admiration from anyone who enters your life, be it romantic partners, friends, or colleagues. And when that becomes your baseline way of being, disrespect does not need to be fought or confronted head-on. It simply does not survive around you. It withers away. In short, to wrap this all up in an even more detailed summary, disrespect does not disappear because you demand better treatment through words or ultimatums. It disappears when your behavior stops signaling any form of emotional dependence and starts signaling unapologetic self-respect through actions. Everything you learned in this comprehensive video comes down to one core unchanging truth. People treat you based on the emotional standards you live out consistently, not the standards you explain or preach about. When your time, attention, and emotional energy become intentional and selective instead of automatic and overflowing, your presence gains real weight and gravity. When your mood no longer rises and falls dramatically with her reactions or whims, your stability becomes attractive again, drawing her in. And when your life direction remains strong and unwavering, regardless of relationship fluctuations, she begins to see you as a man grounded firmly in himself, not a man seeking grounding from her or anyone else. Making her chase is not about controlling her actions or manipulating outcomes. It is about removing the imbalance that caused her to lean back and disengage in the first place. The moment you stop over-pursuing her validation, stop over-explaining every emotion, and stop trying to secure emotional certainty at all costs, the dynamic resets itself organically. She feels the space you've created. She feels your independence shining through. She feels your quiet confidence radiating, and those feelings naturally pull her forward, encouraging her to invest more. Respect grows abundantly in the presence of strength, and strength is calm, consistent, and self-directed at its core. But this only works when it becomes who you are authentically, not something you perform for effect. If you return to fear-based behaviors when things get comfortable, the cycle will return with a vengeance. If you stay grounded, disciplined, and focused on your own growth no matter what, the shift becomes permanent and life-changing. You are no longer trying to win respect through effort. You are living in a way that commands it automatically, effortlessly, and that is when everything in your relationships and life truly changes for the better. Remember, knowledge alone means nothing without consistent action and application. If you're ready to rise above fleeting emotions, lead with purpose, and build the life you deserve, join our community today at the link below. Enroll once, grow forever. It's the step that countless men have taken to transform their lives. And before you go, if this video has helped you in any way, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who might need this advice. Your engagement keeps this content coming. Thanks for watching all the way through this extra lengthy breakdown.